There's no need to explain these things. We were late just to arrive as the sun climbed through the sky. There's no need to explain these things. We rejoicing not to know. Let the music fill our soul. We got to be free. Free, we've got to be free. To be free, free, we've got to be free. Oh no, no. Well, I met with Uncle, and he played his drum, and all of his daughters, they sang his word. We were all laughing under that sky. Well, it was so simple, a thunderbird. Well, I am reminded of the light of my soul, and I do remember I'm already home.
Hi everyone, Coach Stefan Rudolph coming to you from beautiful Escondido, California. Great day park out here and enjoying the beautiful weather. Spring has hit and loving life, basically. We've been helping a lot of people out there with epilepsy, and I have a wonderful interview today on our group here, which is Healthy. The Healthy group that we have is Holistic Epilepsy Awareness for Loving, Transforming, and Healing Yourself. And I have Stacey Chillemi, and she is a wonderful life coach as well, helping epilepsy, epileptics, and those people with seizures. So Stacey, welcome on board, and how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing great. Enjoying the weather out here and getting into spring now and summer and enjoying life, helping others with epilepsy. So I came across your information on Facebook and loved it. Wanted to bring you onto the group and introduce you to Liz and others. So I look forward to working with you in the future. I wanted to hear more about you and how you're helping others.
That's great. You know, I really feel honored to be on your show. I've written over 20 books, and 3 of them were bestsellers. I do life coaching, I do health coaching, and I do epilepsy coaching. I also have a website called staceychillemi.com where we, show all our different services, because I do a lot of speaking events, nationwide, to help others, improve their overall health or to improve their lifestyle or to help them cope with epilepsy. Because as you know, there's not a lot of things on the internet that show people how to cope with epilepsy. And I'm very much into natural healing and healing the body naturally. So I have a website called thecompleteherbalguide.com that helps to teach people how to heal their body naturally and how to improve their overall health. At 5 years old, my parents heard a gurgling sound in the other room, and my mother came inside to see what was going on. And at the time I had a little virus and I had an ear infection, and that virus had traveled to my brain, and I was turning blue at the time, and I was in a grand mal seizure. So my mother rushed me to the hospital, and I was induced into a 4-day coma. They have found out that I had encephalitis, and encephalitis had traveled throughout my brain. And they told my mother that if I come out of this, I'll probably be paraplegic or have brain damage. And my mother was devastated. And my father, who comes from Greece, he came from a small little island. And, he told me the story where he was praying to get me out of the coma and to be okay. And there was a statue in front of that church, and tears used to come down that statue. And he said when he opened his eyes and he looked up at me, a tear dropped from my eye. And I woke up and I came out of it. And I wasn't paraplegic and I didn't have brain damage, but I was left with epilepsy. And till this day, they can't find scar tissue damage in my brain that causes the epilepsy. but I take various seizures, all different types from focal to grand mal seizures. So life was definitely like a roller coaster ride for me. It was a struggle. And, as you know, there's a lot of stigmatism in our world about epilepsy. What people don't know, they fear. And so that you can come into a lot of problems, when you have any type of condition. And, sometimes people look at you differently or they treat you differently, and it could be very difficult. So as I grew up and I went into college, it was very difficult because, the late night studying and trying to get good grades, I ended up having more and more seizures. And one day I said, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to finish this. I said, my dreams, I don't even think any of my dreams are ever going to be a reality because this epilepsy keeps knocking me down. And, I had written to the Epilepsy Foundation, and they have a magazine in the Epilepsy Foundation. And I asked them if they can publish my article. And I asked people, how do they cope with epilepsy? How do they deal with epilepsy? And I was stunned because I had hundreds of letters from all over the United States and Canada come to my house, and people were telling me their story and giving me advice on how to cope with epilepsy. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't alone. I felt that I was like, I couldn't believe how many people had epilepsy because nobody talked about it. And if you went into the library, there were a couple of books on life on the shelf, and all those books were written by doctors in medical terminology. So if you weren't a doctor, you had no clue what these books were trying to tell you. And so I started collecting all these letters. I learned from these letters. These people helped me understand. They gave me hope. They gave me faith. They taught me things. I used all those things to help me get through college. And I later on wrote a book using all those letters in my book. But when I got out of college, I, got a job with a huge corporation in New York. And I'm not going to say which corporation, but it was, a very popular corporation. And it was my dream come true job. And one day I was walking in the hall and I felt an aura coming on. And for anyone who doesn't understand what an aura is a signal. It's considered a slight seizure, but it gives you a signal that, tells you that you're going to have a seizure. So I knew I was going to have a seizure, but I was in the middle of the hallway. There was nowhere for me to go. And I fell to the floor, and I was consciously awake, but my body was in the spasm. So I couldn't move my body, and I was having the seizure. And a producer just walked right over me and kept walking and didn't even stop to help me. And I just stood there and I looked, and I was stunned. I was like, oh my God, this guy saw me have a seizure and he didn't even stop to help me. And he just kept walking. And 30 minutes later, a co-producer comes over and says, oh, Stacey, I'm so sorry, but you don't meet the qualifications of, this job. And I was released from my position because of the seizure. And I knew, they didn't say that, but I knew that was the reason. And this was this was the early 2000s. So, things were a little bit different back then. So I just moved ahead, kept, I wasn't going to give up. And I just, continued my life, and I started doing a lot of writing, and I started to actually create a blog. And I don't know if you remember Blogger from Google when it first came out, but I started a little blog about natural healing and about epilepsy. And one day, an herbalist asked me if I would do research for him and write articles. And I started to research articles and topics, and I started writing up all these articles, and a lot of these things really sounded interesting and sounded like they could help me. So I applied a lot of these things to myself, and I went from having 9 seizures to 6 seizures to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and my seizures started becoming more and more controlled. So with the usage of my with natural healing and using my medication, my seizures became controlled. And I had my husband, I was still writing that book that I was telling you about, and it was called Epilepsy, You're Not Alone. And my husband said, would you finish that damn book? Because I kept writing and putting it to the side. So I did. I finished it. And I actually got a letter, an email, and someone told me they were on the verge of suicide, and that they had fell off, they had gotten to an accident, they had flew off their motorcycle, hit their head, got epilepsy, and they felt like they couldn't, all of a sudden everything, they lost their job, they couldn't drive, everything was gone, and they just didn't feel the will to live. And they said they read my book, and they followed my regimen, and they actually, their life turned around for them. And that's when the light bulb went off. And that's when I said, oh, wow, words of wisdom could be so powerful, how you could say something and you could actually turn somebody's life around. You can, by helping somebody and by giving them the right advice, or giving them direction and installing them with hope, you can actually, help others, give them a purpose, give them the ability to actually make their dreams a reality. And that's when the light bulb went off, and that's when I took my whole life and I started devoting my whole life to helping others. And I created a website called The Complete Herbal Guide, and it was all about natural healing. And it started from 500 people to 10,000 to over 100,000 to now we have close to like 500,000 visitors that come on that website. And then we have, I have my staceychillemi.com website where, now I'm creating different services to help others. And, I feel, it was destined for me to help other people because, so many people reached out of the woodwork to help me in all these different organizations that they offer around the nation that a lot of people probably don't even know about. And, I even spoke in front of Congress about the stigmatism about epilepsy and job discrimination. And I've actually gone on and been on advisory boards for pharmaceuticals like Synovium Pharmaceuticals to help people understand, how people with epilepsy think, because, that's another problem we have in our society too, is the pharmaceutical company. A lot of people that have epilepsy or even other conditions, they don't understand what we're going through. They just want the money. But if you speak to these people and you talk to them and you tell them what patients think, how patients, from a patient perspective, and we could actually help each other. And that's what I'm trying to do right now.
That's wonderful. That's actually amazing. Hope is the first dose for healing.
Oh, most definitely.
When you just said all this information, is like, especially about saving someone's life, and then them reading your story and then hearing your story. And I'm just getting involved in this in epilepsy, but some people hear my story, they say the same thing, but not like, saving. That's amazing. He was going to commit suicide. He reads your book or he sees your information. They know they're not alone. And it reminds me a lot of AA when I go to meetings and things like that. You're not alone. And it's that's an addiction and something that you have to deal with. But when other people out there have it, that's why it's almost like Epilepsy Anonymous, or people that want to come to a group but not let other people know, because they're pretty ashamed. And I know what you mean. I lost 3 jobs myself because of epilepsy. So
yeah,
it affects you, huh?
That's when you have a support group, that's big, that those people, after a while, if they're repeat people who come to these meetings and they're dedicated, these people become more like a family, because it's very embarrassing to talk about it. And, I've gotten to the point in my life where I finally, went out in the open and started talking about it. But you'll still see facial expressions, you'll still see body language, and you can see that some people feel uncomfortable talking about it. And that's when you kind of like back off and you stop talking. But when you are in a group and if everybody has an addiction, or if everybody has epilepsy, you could all relate to each other, and you're all going through the same thoughts and feelings, whether you verbally express it or not. But everybody has the same thoughts. Everyone's going through the same things. And by speaking and by opening up, you're getting advice from each other, and you're seeing things from different perspectives, because everybody is a different person. Everybody looks at things differently. And one piece of advice can help somebody else. And these people become your rock. So when you're about to fall, these people are willing to catch you because they know what you're going through. And that's important.
Yeah, knowing that you're not alone, and then the people understand it because it affects not only them but their family members. And I've talked to a
Oh,
lot of people that are family members that have come to me, right? And they can't,
yes.
one wife in particular reached out recently and she said, I can't handle this. She had such bad anxiety, she never slept. She was always feeling him to make sure he's okay, just sleeping, and then feeling that, what my friends called the fish, and
Hmm.
then seeing that look on their face, what you said, that look of ghostly terror, when people are just like, you just woke up and you're looking at them and they're all looking at you like you just died, right?
Yes.
And they never want to see you again. And that's the
Oh,
same
yeah.
same thing. 3 days later from having a seizure at work, I got let go. In my first 30 days, they had a plausible cause, I guess you call it, to let you go for any reason. And I know I closed a big deal in the first week and I was doing good. And I was like, you're letting me go? Because everybody saw me and they would walk over. They didn't want to be near me, right?
Yeah. People don't realize caregivers go through so much, and it's very hard for caregivers because they're in a situation where they love you, they care about you, they want to help you, but they're powerless. They can only do so much. They can care and try to protect you, but they can't. They see you suffer, they see you fall on the ground, they see you get hurt, they see you have this seizure, but they all they could do is help and comfort you. And it's very hard when someone is taking care of somebody and they can only do so much for that person. They can't stop that epilepsy, or they can't stop that person who's suffering from that condition. And that could be very tough. And depending on the age of the person too, it becomes very stressful, for that person, because they also have responsibilities, they also have a life, they also have things going on in their lives, and they're taking care of this other person who they love and they want to take care of. So, caregivers go through a lot, and they actually need as much therapy, help, and support as the person going through it, but just different types.
Go through it and grow through it together. Exactly. And
Yeah.
same thing with Al-Anon, which is part of Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's for the people in their life of the alcoholic that are affected. It's the same thing. And I work in caregiving actually in assisted living. So I know what you mean when you say the word caregiver. Those are the people dealing with the elderly and the Alzheimer's and dementia. But this
Hmm.
is the same thing when a loved one, a wife or a husband, has a spouse that has epilepsy and they're having to care for them all the time. That person can't drive. Their medications all the time is affecting them too, can be, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of strong medications out there. Some of them can slow down your cognitive thinking. Some of them can, do a lot of different things, make you fatigued and tired, and there's like hundreds and, of possible side effects. But what you have to realize too is that everybody reacts differently to all different types of drugs. And that, the drug that I take, I might feel a certain way, but you might take it and you may not feel that way. Sometimes I see on Facebook people are bashing certain drugs, but you know what? I hear people say a lot of things about Keppra. That's one of the medications I take. And, they say that it changes your mood and makes you this, it makes you that, but it never did any of those things for me. Actually, it didn't give me any side effects. So, people have to realize also that everybody is different, everybody reacts different, and what works for one person may not work for the other person. And popping a pill is not going to just do it. There's more to it, to controlling your seizures. There's a lifestyle change involved, the way you eat, the way you sleep, the stress levels. There's so many things involved that you have to kind of create a regimen for yourself and a lifestyle that's suitable for you, so you could help control your seizures better or decrease your seizures, because it's not just popping a pill that's going to control you.
Yeah, that's really applicable to what I went through. But I also have a quote right here I'll put on here in the recording. And it says, there's nobody like your body. You're not just somebody. You're not just anybody. You're unlike everybody. It's your body that matters most. So those words break down. to the body that if I took Tegretol, Topamax, Depakote, Keppra, Lamictal, all those over the years, and I
Yeah,
had
I've
huge
tried them
side
all
effects.
too.
I know. You go down a list, Depakote, and then get this, I'm in assisted living, as I mentioned, so I'm seeing medication and it's for schizophrenia. And I'm like, I was on that for 10 years. And then there's also issues with the teeth and, depleting of bones. And it's just unbelievable. I'm looking up all the side effects of what I was on, and it's crazy, but we have to do it. Some people have to be on it because it has to help.
And you can't let all those side effects scare you also, because anytime they put a trial basis before they put a medication onto sale, onto the shelves, they have to list anything that happened to anybody. Even if it happened to one person, it's listed. So, sometimes the percentage of those things happening to you could be very, very minor, but it's listed there, and it can be very scary when you read it. So, a lot of times, you'll see like, liver dysfunction, damage of the kidneys, blah, 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 blah. But, for some, you have to be on it in a large quantity sometimes, for things like that to occur. It's not something that will happen 1, 2, 3 a lot of the times.
Yeah, I went from outside sales to inside sales because of the seizures. I had 2 epileptic car accidents in 2004 and a DUI, of course. And so those things, I could not drive. I was having to work from home back in the day, and it was horrible. And then I had to do inside sales, and I would take, I believe it was Keppra at the time, whatever it was. I knew when I took it in the morning, I would have to take calls, and I would be feeling what I should say. I knew what I was supposed to say, but it wasn't coming out right. Sometimes it was
Your
just,
cognitive thinking slowed down.
yeah, everything's like, oh, say this, say that. And I couldn't process it.
Yeah.
And about noon or 2 o'clock, when the medication kind of got through me, I got a lot better. And I started noticing that after a couple of years of being in inside sales, it was difficult sometimes because of the side effects.
That happened to me with Topamax, but then I had them take me off of Topamax because I wanted to find a drug that wasn't really going to affect me, that I could actually feel on the ball, and that wasn't easy to do. And like yourself, I didn't drive for 15 years. I felt like I was in prison in my own home. That's when I was actually, researching and writing books and helping people, is when I was taking my own experience in life and how I survived and things that help me, and the power of positive thinking. That's a big thing for people. You're not going to survive unless you know how to be positive, because negativity will kill you, and that's when a lot of my books, I started writing, and I started to actually help people with my writing. And sometimes when I didn't post something one day, I get an email and they're like, well, you didn't post today, what's going on? I was waiting for that post, and
They're
so
hooked on positivity, hooked on love, and they want more.
they want more. Yeah, they do. Because, people want to be positive. They want to feel good, but they don't know where to begin. Like, where do I start? And, it's people like us that have to show them how to start, where to begin, how to build that platform. All they need is that platform, and they need a couple steps, and then they can do it. They don't need the help anymore. They can do it. And if they need help, those people are always there. But as long as you can build that platform, build that regiment for yourself, and, and learn a specific lifestyle and be able to comfortably live in that lifestyle, you could change your life in so many ways.
Yeah, we're going to talk after this meeting because I have the idea for a book, a co-author book. I was in one with Les Brown, and he gave me the idea. So 5 years ago, it's called Living with Heart. And I was with Les Brown and a couple other authors, and it was wonderful. I had my little story in there. But what about a book called Control Alt Delete, Reset Your Mind, Reset Your Life?
Oh,
And
definitely.
have stories about you, about helping others, and other people in there that have overcome dis-ease, like Wayne Dyer says, and taught me, and Louise Hay, and people like that. That's what changed my life too. In 2010, I went to his events. I saw him here, actually, ironically, now that I think about it, for PBS. He was at this theater before he passed, 2015, 2014, Wayne Dyer. And it was like the way he talked about things, and the way he was an alcoholic before, or drinking every day. And he just said, I'm done being done, and that's something that really shifted me, to hear others out there that I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. And I was like, a little bit of that, a little bit of John Assaraf, a little bit of this, The Secret, everything else kind of connected the dots of thoughts, I call it, and helped me grow. So that's wonderful. You have the same mindset and path, right?
Yeah, I actually have a new book coming out. I have a book coming called Empower Yourself. Don't let your condition empower you, because we have to learn how to empower ourselves. We have to have that inner power in order to be able to survive. And I don't believe I don't want to just survive. I want to thrive. So
I
it's
love
not
that. I say
surviving,
that too.
it's thriving.
Yeah.
So I
From
want
to
to teach.
survive to thrive. That's what I say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's really connected to our mindset. You said 14 years you didn't have a license, or 15, was it?
15 years I had to stop driving because when I was in college, I was driving and I felt a seizure coming on. And then I had my husband, who was my fiance at the time, was sitting in the passenger seat. And I told him I'm going to have a seizure. And I
Wow.
went right into a seizure and I was heading straight for a pole. And, I probably would have been dead. And my husband just, my foot went all the way down on the gas pedal and my hand just stiffened. And, he took the wheel and he pulled it away. And so, when I spoke to my doctor and I told him, he said, Stacey, you're going to have to stop driving and we're going to have to get your seizures better under control. You can't have seizures while you drive. And so I didn't drive for 15 years, and it was very difficult because during that 15 years, I got married. I had 3 kids. I was taking care of 3 kids and they had me they saw me have seizures. That was very difficult and scary for them. I couldn't drive them around. I couldn't take them to soccer practice or take them to gymnastics. That was very hard for me. I had family members helping me, which I was grateful for, but I was always that independent woman.
Yeah,
I
very independent.
Yeah, and I did not like asking for help, even though I knew I wasn't inconveniencing them. It killed me to have to ask for help. And so it took them 15 years to get my seizures under control. And then I was able to drive again. But during those 15 years, it was a very hard time. It was like I was in prison in my own home. And it was, I had to strengthen my mental health. And I just had to work on a lot of things. So when I started driving again, it was wonderful. And, even just to drive to the grocery store made me happy. I was able to actually be a quote unquote normal person, and that's
Yeah,
how.
like achieving normality, I call it.
Yeah, TV normality, because you know what? There is no such thing as normal. Normal is what we perceive to be normal. Everybody is different. And what I think is normal and what you think is normal can actually be totally two different things. So it is like a TV perception of normality, but I just wanted to be able to do things and to be able to live a happy, healthy, and productive life. And those are the things that I mentioned consistently in my book: how to live a happy, healthy, and productive life, because that's all people want. That's all we need, you know?
Compare less, be more is what I
Yeah,
do, because
exactly.
ego, which Wayne Dyer again, edging God out, he taught me that. And I was like, okay, well, and I created a program with MAP is meditation, awareness, and prayer. So meditation and manifestation, awareness and attitude, prayer and or positive thinking. Some people don't pray, that's fine. But just the positive thinking part of it, you have to map your way to success. And I kept thinking I had lower standards and I had to raise my standards because I was always
Yes.
a DUI, epileptic car accident, divorce, bankruptcy. I was living with my parents at 34 years old, brain surgery that didn't work because I kept
Wow.
drinking. Things that happen after multiple DUIs, and then finally waking up and going, well, I knew the alcohol was causing the epilepsy, but people out there that are going to watch this, if you have an addiction, drugs, alcohol, or gambling, even escapism, I gambled, I didn't sleep. The lack of sleep had me cause seizures, even if I
Hmm.
didn't drink. So I
Right.
didn't have my 6 hours, 8 hours of sleep. There's a lot to do with this, and your program itself, and people can click on the links below that we'll have on the YouTube video, and they'll find your programs there. I'm sure they help with awareness and journaling, everything, right?
Yeah. That's a big thing too, is journals. And I talk about that also. Journals are very important. Sometimes we tend to hold things inside ourselves and we push things down. Some people push things so much down into their inside themselves that they can't even feel anymore, or they lie and they're in denial. I always say it's denial, having to really accept saying, okay, I have epilepsy or I am an addict, and I have to accept have to, I have to not be in denial, because people live life in denial, like so many people, it's unbelievable. And then you have to learn how to accept it, say, yes, I have this, and then you have to learn how to love yourself for who you are, and then be able to set short-term and long-term goals, and be able to actually, work on your self-esteem, because self-esteem is a big thing. Because when you have these things happen to you, you don't feel good about yourself. That's why you're going to get alcohol, or that's why, or people with epilepsy feel indifferent. They may not be able to reach their goals because their seizures are in the way. So their self-esteem is beat up. So you need to have a high healthy self-esteem in order to get through life. And I talk about the steps about how to get a high self-esteem, because that's the key point to anything in life. Success, you need high self-esteem. You need to believe in yourself, you need to love yourself, and you need to be sure, because success is not reaching the goal you set in your head. Success is just being able to attempt to reach that goal. That's success.
They say shoot for the moon. If you hit the stars, you'll be okay, right? You've heard
Exactly.
that. You have
100%.
these goals, and it goes back to an ego thing. I call it the 7-year shift, because I went through the 7-year itch, and say my marriage and the relationship I was in, and the
Hmm.
alcohol induced it. But I noticed every 5 to 7 years our life changes.
Oh, definitely.
And I was just taken over by alcohol, saying I need to be like I was, and I never shifted into what I could be or should be, a new person. The alcohol
Yeah.
kept handle, I was actually like crying at times, going, I wish I could just have 1 or 2 beers at the bar and go home. It turned into
Right.
1 or 2 pictures, it was all
Yeah.
night. And I wanted to be, quote, normal, but I couldn't shift myself. I couldn't change. And it's that battle of the ego again, right?
Yeah, 100%. We get caught up what we think, like TV and what we see on TV, that so many people think that's the way life should be, but it's not,
I know,
life
right?
is very different.
Social media is huge on that too. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Kids, especially as your, kids are growing up and getting involved in that, people see it. We get affected by it. Facebook, Instagram, everything, and it's like you want more and more and more. You want more likes. You want more people. But that's the spirit that you help people with, and I'm working on that too, to help more and more others out there to love yourself, find yourself in yourself, for yourself, through yourself, by yourself,
Exactly.
right?
100%.
Mhm. Well, I really appreciate this. Great interview. We're going to have more together, and I want you to meet Liz. She's up in Canada. She's part of our group here,
Yeah, I'd love to.
Corey as well. And we'll have some more interviews like this to help others. And what's your contact information? We'll have it on here too, but tell people out there again.
Okay, so you can go to staceychillemi.com. That's STACEYCHILLEMI.com. And the Complete Herbal Guide is where I have all the natural healing, and I talk about how to heal the body naturally. I talk about nutrition, I talk about fitness, and I go over recipes and different things that you could do to help yourself naturally. And my staceychillemi.com shows all the different things that we have to offer, the different books that I've written over the course of the years that help people. I've even written a book on epilepsy and pregnancy, because my doctor was stunned with my pregnancy. So many people are afraid to become pregnant because of the epilepsy and because of the seizures. So, I've touched a lot of different topics. I've touched the power of positive thinking and living with epilepsy. And, I'm now coming out with that book about empowerment, and all that can be found on staceychillemi.com. And I'd love to answer questions. So, people can also, all my handles are there for YouTube and for Facebook and for Twitter and Flipboard and all those. I have all those on the website itself.
Wonderful. And you're very powerful and motivating for others. I actually just thought of this too. I interviewed Tiffany. It's on my YouTube channel. Tiffany's a marathon runner that has epilepsy. She's out there. If you're going to see the Boston Marathon Monday, I think it is, right? Coming up.
Oh, yeah.
She's
Yeah.
going to be running in it. So it's on my channel. It made me think of those athletes out there, those people out there that still want to push forward and get through it from the epilepsy. It's the hardest part.
There's so
So
many famous people with epilepsy that a lot of people keep it quiet, because even with the Epilepsy Foundation, they were trying to get certain people to come out of the woodwork and talk about it, and they didn't really want too many people knowing about their epilepsy. But there, if I talk about in one of my books the history of all the different people who had epilepsy. Even Einstein had epilepsy. So there's a lot of people out there with epilepsy, and no matter, if you have the disorder, you could do anything you want, as long as you put your mind to it. There's nothing stopping you.
reset your mind, reset your life.
Yes.
Control Alt Delete. We'll talk some more. I appreciate it, Stacey. Wonderful speaking with you and connecting on here. So everybody subscribe, like, and share on this channel, on her channel, and everything else, and take your life to the next level.
As the sun climbs through the sky, there's no need to explain these things. We rejoicing not to know. Let the music fill our soul. We got to be free. Free, we've got to be free. Free, we've got to be free. Free, we've got to be free. Oh, no, no. Well, I met with Uncle, and he played his drum, and all of his daughters, they sang his word. We were all laughing under that sky. Well, it was so simple.